All right, let's break it down with the two-time Super Bowl champ Bryant McFadden and Ryan Wilson here to see what we really just saw between these two teams. And it wasn't a whole lot. Offensively, it was a struggle throughout. And two best kickers in the game, some would argue, comes down to those two legs. I mean, how many different ways can we say it here, Ryan Wilson, that Justin Tucker is the best that this game has ever seen? From that to everything we saw prior, what really struck you about this matchup?
I think you start with Justin Tucker. He is automatic. He is money. And I say it all the time, half jokingly but half serious. If he were coming out and you were a head coach and a GM and you knew he was going to be Justin Tucker, dude's worth the first-round pick. Their first-round picks hit 50% of the time. Justin Tucker converts 99.9% of the time. That's how the game ended. It was never in doubt. He smoked a plus 50-yarder, 59-yarder earlier in the half to get them up 13-10. And the bigger takeaway for me was this, B-Mac and Joe. Last 5 home games for the Ravens, all losses, all within 4 points, a total of 12 points total. This looked to be going down that road after Evan McPherson sort of made that extra point to put them up 1 point at the end there, and then Justin Tucker did his thing. And I think that's what you take away from it. One time early in the second half, John Harbaugh went for a fourth down. They didn't get it. Later in the game, towards the goal line, towards the Bengals end, he didn't go for it on fourth down. They settled for a field goal, so he split the difference there with all his detractors. But I think you take that Lamar Jackson didn't do as much as he probably could have. He missed some open guys down the field. He still found a way to win with his feet. The defense helped him out. The running game helped him out a little bit in the second half. And I think a win's a win's a win, especially a division win in what is a pretty tough division when you look around the league.
Well, you talked about the defense, and that's the biggest takeaway for me. Baltimore's defense stood up. We really saw them in tonight's ball game. They made a difference. They made sure things were going to be different from what we've seen in weeks past. And who would have thought all they were missing was JPP, Jason Pierre-Paul. I mean, he played phenomenal. He looked like a guy who just was a part of this team from start to finish outside of getting signed over a week ago. But seeing what he was able to do, looking at some of the other pass rushers, this is more what we're used to seeing for Baltimore, especially at home. A physical style of play, collapsing the pocket, putting pressure on quarterbacks, not allowing wide receivers to be running scot-free down the football field. Very, very tight coverage. They played inspired football, and because of that, they were able to uphold their end of the bargain and being able to keep their offense in reach of winning this ball game and allowing Justin Tucker to do what he's been called to do.
This was in many ways really the exercising of demons for this Ravens team, guys, as we take a look at their last 8 games decided by one possession, all losses, including Week 2 and Week 4, which are 2 of the 5 worst losses in the history of the Ravens. 17 or more point leads in the fourth quarter of both of those games. They had nothing to show for it. Here, it looked like they might let up another fourth quarter lead, but they finally get one into the win column and win here by 2 on the leg of Justin Tucker. All right, guys, when we digest those numbers and take a look at what it's looked like in these close ball games, just how big, B-Mac, of a result is this for the Ravens here on Sunday night?
It's huge. I mean, when you look at that graphic we saw in one possession ball games, not finding a way to win has really hampered them. And it hampered them also if you look at some of the losses they've sustained so far this season. So being able to be on the right side of the winning column, finding a way to come up huge and win these one possession ball games is important. Not to mention, we saw, like I said, life from the defensive side. Mm-hmm. So far this season, the defense has been the Achilles heel, putting their offense in shootout-like performances. But tonight, playing against an offense that has really showed up to be an explosive group of guys, they made life difficult. They didn't run the ball extremely well. Well, in the first half, the running game was missing. We saw more positive things from Cincy's running game in the second half, but we didn't see their pass catchers. Now, I guess not having T. Higgins made things a little easier for Baltimore, but yet and still, they played against an offense with some skilled guys that can go and put points up. So not seeing that happen from Cincinnati, you have to tip your hat from the defensive side of things with Baltimore and being able to win this close ball game.
Yeah, no, that's exactly right. And you can't make excuses that T. Higgins wasn't out there the entire time. You still got Boyd. You still obviously have Jamar Chase. And when Hayden Hurst is your leading receiver for the Bengals, that makes you wonder about the offensive game planning. And that brings me to Zach Taylor, who, again, it's unclear to me if he's making the right play calls consistently. actually, it's quite clear to me. It's unclear why he continues to call plays and be the head coach. I think sometimes you take on too much as a young head coach, and this appears to be the case here. We can talk about the 15-play, 8-minute drive in the third quarter. They got all the way down to the Baltimore 1-yard line, and then for reasons that remain a mystery to me and probably will remain a mystery for the rest of my life, Zach Taylor dials up a Philly special that loses 14 yards. They get a little bit of that yardage back, and then they go for it on fourth down, 4th and goal, and it's a shovel pass. La'el Collins appeared to blow his assignment. Zach Taylor gave him an earful as he came off the field, and the disarray shows up 1 or 2 plays every single week, usually in critical situations. And again, we talked about with the Cardinals and Cliff Kingsbury, you have to put your finger at the head coach. The Bengals could have won this game by a touchdown or more, and instead they lose at the end to Justin Tucker because it was a one-score game, and that's what Justin Tucker does. But I do have questions about Zach Taylor in terms of the play calling, especially in critical moments of the football game.
And it's not just Zach Taylor. I'm glad you brought this up here because I'm sure a larger conversation will be had on both All Things Covered and the Pick Six podcast. Download and subscribe today. Our two gentlemen doing a fantastic job on both of those podcasts. But it's play calling and decision-making league-wide. We have coaches passing up points in tie ball games. We have coaches going for it on their own 40 when a punt in 60 seconds is the only thing between you. I'm looking at Brandon Staley in this instance. It's really interesting right now, and the game is changing and the way the game is being called is changing. But, Ryan, do we have to stop short right now of letting the computers take over? Because it felt like here on Sunday, a couple decisions and a couple moments really had me scratching my head and wondering if I know what this game even is.
All right, go ahead and pull off your mask, Pete Prisco. I see you over there trying to pretend you're Joe Musso on set.
Send it to Pete.
You sound just like him. I saw B-Mac shaking his. I saw B-Mac shaking his head when you mentioned Brandon Staley because B-Mac has made it clear that he doesn't like all those crazy
trust the
fourth down
defense
play calls. I didn't hate the going for it on your own 40 late in that ball game for Los Angeles. But here's the other thing I will point out. You do wonder if these coaches hear things in the media and from the fan base because John Harbaugh forever goes for it. He did not go for it late in this game on a 4th and short. He settled for, you got a delay game and settled for the field goal. That is not very John Harbaugh-like. And if you just wonder if there's a conversation with the GM or the owner or you listen to local sports radio and that gets in your head. At the end of the day, I think the math is the math, but what you have to consider is that the math doesn't talk about the specifics of your team. Yes, in general, this is what you should do, but when you're Kenny Pickett, you should do something a little differently than if you're Patrick Mahomes or Josh Allen, and I think that's where fans and media get upset.
I remember something Dick LeBeau told us when I was with the Steelers. I can't remember if it was 2006 or 07 or 08, but he said, offensive coordinators and offensive play callers, they're egocentric. They have to feed their ego. Instead of doing things they're supposed to do, they do what they want to do. And if you play the game with that mindset, you will be in positions to be successful. Prime example, you talk about Zach Taylor in the third quarter, that double-digit drive, double-digit play drive, drove the length of the football field, inside the 3, inside the 4, didn't call one run. Didn't call one run at all. You have Joe Mixon who got things going in the second half. You're watching the TV as a fan like I am. I don't have a dog in the race outside of Cincinnati getting 4 points. At some point in time, you're thinking a run will happen. Run has to happen. First pass play to Hayden Hurst, right? The second pass play was the Philly special. Then you throw a skinny post to Chase. You're on the 2-yard line then. So you got new life. Now you're like, okay, AFC North ball game. We're down 3. You know what? We should take the points, but I don't want to take the points. I'm going to call another call, and I'm going to run a shovel pass that was horrible. If you didn't know anybody, you didn't think they practiced that one day throughout the week of prep. I don't know what's going on. I don't know. And you know, I have cousins all the time. When I used to play, he's like, man, what these coaches are thinking about? We're like, we be on the sideline thinking the same thing. I can imagine the defensive players from Cincinnati like, Coach, are we not going to run the ball? And I don't want to talk about the Chargers. I don't want to talk about Brandon Staley and that decision. They got lucky. Going for it, 4th and 2, basically in field goal range. If you don't get it, It didn't make any sense. But like Coach LeBeau, Dick LeBeau's telling, he say they're egocentric, so understand that. And he used to call the game knowing that. That's probably why we used to be so good defensively, because we had a great defensive coordinator that knew that offensive coordinators were egocentric. They wanted to feed their egos.
My favorite.
And that's what we saw from Zach Taylor today. That's what we saw.
I think we're seeing a lot of it. And my favorite thing is that Dick probably told you that and then blitzed you a gap from like 25 yards deep. You got to be the right kind of crazy, B-Mac. That's all we're saying here on HQ, as we appreciate both of you guys and your insights throughout the day. All right, here's a look at that team comparison. Not a whole lot of points on either side. Both of these offenses likely walk away feeling like they can do more. 17-19 is your final, with Baltimore getting the win and the all-important divisional win. And according to our friends at Caesars, it is likely a two-team race, and you're looking at those two teams. But here on Sunday nights, it's Baltimore 2 points better thanks to the leg.
Do you want a sports network that delivers everything that matters about the game? The highlights, the picks, the instant analysis, no yelling, no fake debates, no politics. Hit the subscribe button and never miss a moment.